our Orioles MASN Sports insider, Steve Molesky. And Steve joins us from Houston right now. And Steve, I know Mike Elias did talk to the media at length today, and one of the hot subjects was if and when the top prospect in all of baseball, Gunnar Henderson, will join the Orioles for this stretch run.
Exactly, Brett. That's kind of high on our mind right now, right? This kid is tearing it up in AAA. He's had such a great year. He's now the #1 ranked prospect in baseball, according to Baseball America, #2, MLBpipeline.com. He's basically in everybody's top 5, so he's having a great year. 21 years old, left-handed hitter. We've seen him play a little defense on the right side now to add some versatility. Of course, he's played a lot of short and third. No decision yet has been made, however, about Gunnar, according to the Orioles executive vice president and general manager, Mike Elias.
He's playing in Norfolk. I've said and continue to say that we're watching everything he's doing very carefully. We're watching what the team's doing up here very carefully and having ongoing conversations about when and how he might factor into that in 2022, but no decisions have been made. But it's obviously something that we're monitoring, and very pleased with where he's at as a 21-year-old that started the year in AA. To now be in a daily conversation for possibly coming and helping a team down a wild card stretch, I think is a big accomplishment. But we'll just have to see what happens the rest of the way.
Well, you have two roster spots to add next week.
Yeah,
can't he be one of them?
He's certainly a candidate. We do expand on September 1st. We're obviously going to be adding one position player and one pitcher. I don't know who those are. Everything changes day to day in baseball. Somebody could get hurt. We're just going to have to see and take it. But he's put himself into a spot to be considered, but he's still having ups and downs in AAA on a nightly basis, and we're watching that too.
You mentioned 40-man of consideration. In other words, he would not have to be protected this November if he's not already on the 40.
Well, not speaking specifically to him, but I think anytime we're making a roster decision, whether or not somebody's on the 40-man or not is always relevant.
You mentioned the ups and downs with him. What in particular are you guys hoping to see him take a step forward in order to kind of cement himself as belonging up here?
Well, it's kind of a tough thing to be too critical about with him because he's doing so well at his age and being by far the youngest player in AAA and not starting the year in AAA. That I don't want to nitpick aspects of his performance from that. What he's doing in AAA right now bodes very, very well for his future. But if you're talking about calling him up and his immediate ability to hit the ground running in a 2022 season, his strikeout rate in AAA is a little bit high. His numbers, righties versus lefties, are not ideal for his long-term development. And he's still learning some things out in the field. And we've seen, like recently with Kyle Stowers, while he obviously had a huge moment last night that was a lot of fun. It's tough transitioning to the major leagues, and it's hard to take your AAA performance and just assume you're just going to paper that over into the big leagues right away. So, we'll see where this goes with Gunnar, but we're very, very proud of him and pleased with where he's at.
What was the thinking in giving him some work on the right side of the infield?
We want him, if he is called up, whether that's this season or maybe next year out of spring training, we want him to be as versatile as possible. He's a guy that can play shortstop, and he's a guy that can really play third base. And obviously, I think his long-term career over the next 10 or 15 years, it's going to be on the left side of the infield. But with the way that this team is presently composed, with us having a right-handed hitting first baseman, there's just a lot of things that in the very, very short term I think would benefit him and us if he's able to play a little bit on the right side of the infield. So we're giving him that footage as kind of quickly as possible.
And for me, Steve, the versatility component plays much more into this stretch run here in 2022, that if he were to come up, you could play him a little bit at first, maybe spell Odor or whomever at second, and then maybe even go to a straight platoon at third with Ramon Arias. That's my take on it. Whatever the situation is, the Orioles are in this thing right now, and a lot of people are comparing the Orioles to what Mike Elias and company did with the Houston Astros, the tear down and then the rebuild, and I think there are a lot of takeaways that are similar.
There are, and the Orioles now are where the Astros were several years ago, and Mike Elias obviously was part of what happened here in Houston And he was asked earlier today, is it starting to mirror what is now happening in Baltimore?
We're nowhere near those heights yet, but I expect this to be the Orioles to be a playoff team, hopefully this year, and then in the contention every year going forward. And that's really all you can say in our division is to be in contention for the postseason. It's such a tough division and it's so strong that it's hard to say more than that. But I think this is a team that's now back in the fight and is a team to be reckoned with in the AL East. And I think a lot of similarities in the rebuilds. I think the commitment to bringing young talent into the organization, to doing things smartly, to coaching them up, to pulling in players from all angles. It's not easy to do. It takes some fortitude getting through those lean years. But I think in both cases, both the Astros in 2011, 2012, and the Orioles in 2018, 2019, there was no other way to go about doing what needed to be done to get these franchises back up and running. And I think you see the fruits of it here in Houston, and that's long in the rearview mirror now for Astros fans, those years. And not something that you like to do, not something that you should ever get into intentionally, but when you find yourself in a spot like that, it's the best way to go.
Yeah, there's Orioles Executive Vice President and General Manager Mike Elias. I thought it was interesting, Steve, watching that press conference, that someone asked about the timing of the Orioles, almost like they still have this long way to go. I think anyone who's seen these rebuilds, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I think any objective reaction would have to be the Orioles are way ahead of any timeline that was put forth over these last few years.
Well, after 110 losses, no question, that is true, Brett. And, today Brandon Hyde talked about all the tough AL East games they have played. Maybe that helps them a little bit now this week when it feels like they're still in the division, right? They're playing Houston and then Cleveland, so tough opponents coming. But getting back to Gunnar Henderson, and one thing that was pointed out today, and we all have to consider this, Brett, Kyle Stowers has struggled a little bit early. Obviously had an incredible moment last night. Even Adley Rutschman struggled in his first 20 games. Bobby Witt struggled early. Spencer Torkelson struggled early. So I think this is something the Orioles have to consider with Gunnar Henderson. Is he talented enough to be here? There's no question that's true. But if it takes him 20 or 30 games to find his way, as it did with Adley, season's almost over. So there's a lot to be considered here for the Orioles with this very big decision with this very talented kid.
Yeah, there's short and long-term considerations there, and anyone who thinks it's just you call up the prospect and therefore the prospect will be great, we have learned that it does not work that way. Steve Melewski, our Orioles MASN insider, we appreciate so much.
Thanks, Brett.